You know what time it is.
Showtime.
We're born to bounce.
Feel the bass.
I tell ya.
Going to bounce.
Get ready. It's showtime.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Showtime with the Apollos. I am Brent Allen, your host, joined as always by my man, Ren Daxt. Ren, how's it going over there tonight, buddy?
It is. I feel isolated over here in my little box, but I'm good.
Isolated?
Yeah, I'm all by myself.
But you got me over here.
That's true. That's true. There are barriers, but yeah, I'm fine. Everything's good, man.
Very good, very good. I must say, Ren, we were talking about this a little before. You're looking quite sharp tonight.
Yeah,
you see what I did there?
Yeah, the HD camera decided to work, which is always good when you're, simulcasting on YouTube. That's a thumbs up from me and everybody else. But what about talk about looking sharp? I mean, Steve Spurrier, the fun and gun, goes into the snow and pulls out a victory.
Yeah, I don't know that I would call that one sharp, but it was certainly it was an interesting game to watch for sure. Of course, for those listening, we are not talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this particular time. We are talking about the Orlando Apollos, the Alliance League. We're talking about their fourth game of the season. So we're just about to the halfway mark of the season where they went out to Salt Lake City, took on the Salt Lake City Stallions, played in the snow so much that they couldn't even tell what was going on the field. Like, where it was a hash mark or a yard line or something like that. Like it was not okay. Those guys were slipping, sliding around. But as you mentioned, Ren, our Apollos pulled out the win 20-11. 20. Yeah, I think that was it. 20-11.
We should probably know that.
Should probably know that. Yeah. Yeah.
I
had it.
The
It's
first half
20-11.
was pretty bad.
It was.
As far as the snow, went. And the offense sort of, I guess reflected that. I like to think that, Spurrier came out and said, well, look, it's snowing. We're going to run the ball. Tried it for the first two series and just went, well, we're not moving it, running it. Let's throw it like we always do.
Mm-hmm.
And, they got down in the red zone twice, or got close to it and had to kick a couple of field goals there in the first half. But then in the second half, when they came out, they scored a touchdown the first two times they had the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. And second half was certainly a more interesting side to watch, and to kind of go back to what you could tell happening on the field. They came out during halftime, and looks like they just snow plowed right up through the middle of the field, and they did something to the numbers and some of the hash marks, so you could actually kind of tell what was happening with the field and where they were. So, and especially in an abbreviated halftime time, kudos to their field crew, but. Yeah, it was something. And, man, listen, we're going to get into all of that, talking about the Apollos. We're going to talk about this game with the Stallions. We're going to talk about how the Apollos now are the sole undefeated team of the Alliance because the Birmingham Iron lost today. And let's see here. We've got that. We'll talk about maybe how this affects our beloved Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because at the heart of this is presented by the PewterCast, which is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, although we are talking about the Apollos. Before we get into all of that, though, Ren, I do want to give a quick shout out and a hello to everybody who is joining us live out in Mixlerland, listening to the audio feed. Hello to all of you guys over there, and I want to say hello to everybody that's joining us right here on the video feed here on YouTube. You guys are definitely welcome. You guys tear it up there in the chat room. Several people already going through there. Now, Ren, you asked me a question earlier this week. I don't remember if it was over the phone or we were talking here or whether it was just over text message. But we're 4 weeks into the season now here with the Alliance, with the Developmental League, with the Companion League, the Complementary League.
There you go. You found it.
Yeah, the newness has, I think, started to wear off. Like I think everybody's kind of settling into the groove here with the Alliance and what we're doing here at the Alliance. Also this week, pretty big week around, the NFL, and that we had the Combine going on this week.
Right.
Now, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't know how the viewership turned out, but I'm just curious, and I know you watched the game. You had to because we do this podcast. But where were you finding yourself with this game, knowing that the combine was happening at the same time? How was that going with you? Because I'm not, I'm interested to talk to people to find out. Were they more interested in the combine or were they actually interested in the ball game? Like, how did these two mesh up, going head to head against each other?
Yeah, I sent out a tweet, earlier. I think it was like maybe Friday or maybe early Saturday. That, like you said, I'd be really interested to see what these viewership numbers are, because this is the first weekend where the NFL, an event, it's not a game, but there's an NFL event that's actually going up head to head against the Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to know if it'd be oversaturation.
Right.
Their fan base are the hardcore football fans. These people watch college football. They watch the NFL, obviously. Now they have a new league. And if they're somewhere geographically close, they're following their team.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened with me was I didn't watch either of the first, and I've watched every game, at least half of every
Mm-hmm.
single game. But this week I watched the combine. So I missed the early Saturday game and I missed the early today when, we're doing the Sunday game. But I got to watch, but I was all in for the Apollos game, and I watched, into the third quarter of the Hot Shots. Who are they playing? The Atlanta Legends game that's going on, probably just finishing up maybe right now as we're doing this. So, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see. I felt like it might have been an oversaturation
Mm-hmm.
because, to be honest, I wasn't as hyped for the Apollos game after watching like 6 hours of guys run around in what are they called? The Underwear Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little burnt out on football because there's no action obviously in the combine. You're just sort of looking at scores and trying to look at guys' speed and their vert, and it's
Mm-hmm.
once again, it's for the hardcore. So basically they were kind of fighting over the same type of fans.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I want to see how it goes. I feel that I expect that the night games will do okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll probably be the lowest for the day games, because they were like directly head to head against the NFL combine.
Right. And I think that's kind of the question that, from an analysis standpoint, that I'm really curious about the Alliance right now is, are they in a spot where they're traction and they're gaining more fans week to week to week, or is interest starting to wane? Now that things are, because like I said, it really feels like we're settling into the season.
Right.
And we're settling into how this works. And by the way, this isn't week 4 of the Alliance. For a lot of us, this is week 26 or so, 25, 26 of football. If we've been following football this entire time. And then if you back it up through camp, that's even more, all the way back through January. It's just been nonstop since then. So I'm just curious to see how fan interest is playing out right now.
I think what's helping is that, well, I don't care if it's helping the Apollos are undefeated, because I want them to be undefeated because, they're my team. But I think it helped that the Express won a game,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like Atlanta, at least when I left, was leading the Hot Shots. Because after 2 weeks, it kind of went like, oh, wow, this is going to be like, there's only like 3 teams that have a chance to win this.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's a way too early over analysis and lazy. But now we're 4 weeks in, and the competition is starting to level off. The Apollos blew out people. What was it, like 29 points and 40 points in their first 2 games,
Mm-hmm.
and now they sort of settled in. Of course, the last one was in the snow, but so I think that helps the league that there's competition everywhere.
Right.
It's not something where, oh, okay, it's the Apollos versus the Legends. This game isn't going to be close. I guess I'll go mow the lawn because I have to do it today at some time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and then on the converse side of that, with the Apollos now being undefeated, maintaining a they're 4-0. However, these aren't blowout games that they've been winning. I mean, even these last 2 weeks, like they were, the point spread may be about 10 points or so, but that's not as big in the Alliance as it is as we're used to with the NFL. if a team is up 10 points in the NFL, that's a pretty big spread. In the Alliance, it doesn't seem like that's
Because every touchdown's worth 8.
right. And then if they get the 2 point, that's 10. No. Sorry. Back that up. It's worth 8.
Yeah.
You're right. It's worth 8. But yeah, and it seems like it's not that big of a
Yeah, there's a lot of oddball scores, and because you're used when you watch an NFL game and you watch it and you're like, okay, the team's up 21-29, 5 minutes left, they got this in the bag, but then you really kind of realize, like, wait, that's just a touchdown.
Yeah.
And it just becomes like it's just a touchdown because they always have to go for 2. So, but I still am a little shocked about how many 2-point conversions are not actually converted.
Yeah. Yeah, you
know?
brought that up. You brought that up last week, especially in the context of several people often say, some people that you and I respect quite a bit. Yeah. And I have often kind of retouted it. Not that I've ever gone in and done the research on it and done the math on it, but the idea that statistically speaking, you're better just to go for it every single time and go for the 2 point every single time. Because even though you'll miss it from time to time, in the end, you still come out with more points at the end of the day. But in reality, what we're seeing here, at least with the Alliance, that doesn't seem to be working out so well, though.
Yeah, six seems to be the norm, not the outlier.
Okay, let me ask you this. One of the things we talked about... Wait a minute. Let me pause, because I want to come back to this conversation. For anybody who is out there listening and wants to call in, phone line's open. You guys can do that. Just interrupt us. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. 864-729-BUCS. That's 864-729-2827. We would love to take your call if you're out there and have thoughts on the game. All right. So we're talking about this 2-point conversion thing. A lot of times people call in. One of the things we hear is, oh, I like this change in the rules. I like this change in the rules. We've often talked about liking the idea that they got to go for it every time. Right. It seems to make it a little more exciting. Do you still like the fact that they have to go for it every time, even though they're not catching it? Or would you rather just let them have the option and use the strategy of, do I go for it here or do I just kick the field goal and get the freebie?
I like going for 2. I like forcing them and going for 2.
Yeah.
I think, it just, like you said, a 2-point swing is a lot bigger than a 1-point swing. And when you miss the 2-point conversion, it's a 2-point swing. When you miss an extra point, it's a 1-point swing. You can make that up with, a 2-point conversions. Right. So, like, once you miss your first 2-point conversion, there's no making those points back up. Like, they're just gone.
Right.
So, I think it adds another element. I think it adds an element of strategy. I think a strategy or strategy. Right. It just makes it more fun to watch. At least for me, it might be just because it's new, but plus the NFL's been trying to make the extra point more exciting or make it a play that counts. I think they've done well by pushing it back to a 33-yarder, and us as Buck fans, we've seen plenty of missed extra points the past few years since they moved it back. But so that does add sort of, I guess, an element of an excitement to it, but not nearly as much as having to go for it for 2 every time. Because still in the NFL, missing an extra point is an outlier. And like I said, okay, it's not the end of the world, because when you score, then you can go for 2, and then you're right back on track where you were. Or were supposed to be, I guess.
I'm not so sure that I actually like going for 2 every time. Like, I think there are a lot of times where I'm sitting there just going, I'd just rather just go out and kick it, because it's not a safety issue. Some of the rule changes for the Alliance were safety issues. Right. It's part of the reason why they say they don't do the kickoffs. They just put it at 25 and just go. I do like that. I don't miss the kickoff at all. You just look up and boom, there they go. I do like that change, but the being able to kick it, I don't think that I am enjoying it as much as I did at first when the novelty was still there. So I don't know. We'll see. It still freaks out the math for me a lot too. But that's kind of it. And I think it also leads to this feeling that the Alliance isn't scoring a lot of points or scoring a lot of touchdowns. Yeah.
Because if the outlier is you actually making the 2-point conversion, I mean, 2 touchdowns is 12 points. You miss 2 towing convert. You look at 12. It's kind of like, in your head, because you've been programmed for so long. It's like, okay, how'd you do that? Like a touchdown, a field goal, and a safety. Like it just doesn't seem like a lot of points. 14, you're like, oh, they've scored 2 touchdowns.
Right.
It's just something you sort of just have to relearn in your head. And I think there was a game today. It was 11-10. Like, how does that happen?
How does that happen?
Touchdown, 2-point conversion, and a field goal.
Well, if it's a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, and a field goal, that's 11 points, right?
11-10.
And then you get 10. How do you get 10 though?
How do you get 10?
Yeah, a safety.
Was it 11-9?
You get a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, and a safety. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's weird. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Like all the scorings are off. Yes, all the scorings are off.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, more than just the math. Like I just don't know that I am. I don't know that I see it as being a big deal. Like I see, and to go back to the kickoff thing, I get why they took out the kickoffs. I like actually the game better without the kickoffs. I don't know that I understand why they took out the kick in the first place, because I don't think that was a safety issue. I
think they're trying to do a more exciting brand of football, because an extra point's a boring play.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. It's that sort of hey, this is an InstantCast type show, right? Like that's just kind of I was having that thought as I was going through this game. Like, I just don't really know that one is kicking me, but I'm glad to know that it is for other people, because I certainly am not the end all be all on these things. But hey, let's talk about this game here a little bit. We already talked about it a little bit. Snowing all over the place, people sliding all over the field. That opening drive, I think the Apollos went 3 and out, and guys were just sliding all over the field due to the snow.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having this thought, like, so the first 2 weeks of the Apollos year, the first two games, they came out, they had a real slow start. And then they got to about the second quarter and everything turned on, and, the fun and gun, whatever they're calling it these days, kicks into action, points start getting scored, and away we go. And then last week in the game 3, they scored back-to-back on their opening drive, and then it kind of mellowed out for a while, and then they came on in the third quarter. But yesterday, it was almost like it was back to that first 2 weeks thing, where it was going to be a slow start. They were having issues kind of figuring out what was happening with the ball. And I was thinking, I was like, okay, is this going backwards to that, having a slow start, or is this just game condition or field conditions?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about in the opening, and I think it's exactly what happened. Like, they knew it was going to snow. They were going to try to run the ball, eat up the clock, and hey, we're just going to power football past you guys and just beat you into submission with the run game.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went like 3 and out, and then I'm not sure if they went 3 and out on the second one or not, but they didn't go anywhere on the offense. Like, they didn't put any kind of meaningful drive together. And then, Spurrier decided, like, hey, well, let's fun and gun or not, like, we're supposed to have the advantage in this type of weather because the receivers know where they're going and the defenders don't. Let's throw it anyway. And that's what happened. And there was a lot of, I thought Gilbert, especially in the second half, really sort of acclimated to the weather. There was a lot of touch passes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he wasn't firing him in there. He was sort of like, okay, I see you got to step on the linebacker. I'm just going to float it out in front of you. And you sort of make the, little adjustment to it. And since the field is so slippery, and covered in snow, the safeties or the corners weren't able to close on those guys in time. And I came away at the end of the game being impressed by Gilbert's touch and sort of be able to make the passing game work.
Yeah.
And once they got the passing game going, it opened up for the running game. Kareem Hunt, looked like the back that we expect him to be. Excuse me? Akeem Hunt.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Not that guy. Yeah.
It's the other guy. It's not the same guy. Guys.
Yeah. Looked like the back we expected him to be. And, Dernis Johnson had a good game.
Mm-hmm.
The wide receiver Johnson went over 100 yards again.
Yeah.
It was just, at the end of the game, you kind of looked at it and you're like, you sure this game was played in the snow?
Mhm.
And I think we, as in you and I, and I don't follow. There's a little bit of Apollo Twitter out there. Obviously, it's not like Buccaneers Twitter, but I don't think that the Orlando defense is getting enough praise for keeping these games like low scoring. I don't think anyone scored 20 points on us yet. It's like the Stallions were moving the ball in the first half,
Right.
and they were putting together drives, but then halftime comes, and you look up and they have 3 points,
Right.
and it's just
Right.
all right. The defense, especially these last 2 games, have really been keeping the Apollos in this, and it's becoming. You watch them, the Apollos, and like I said, I've seen just about every single game. I can't tell yet if it's coaching or talent or a combination, probably a combination of both, but they just look like the best team.
Do they? Because I have not watched the other teams. Kind of true to form, I follow the team that I follow, and I don't really follow the rest of them. So I haven't really looked really at the others. So you think that the Apollos look like the best team in the league?
And I think it all sort of comes around to the quarterback play.
Okay.
And the systems they're in.
Sure.
2 teams have already switched quarterbacks. The Legends switched tonight. They finally went to Andy Murray.
Okay.
After sticking with Sims after 3 games. We were there when they finally benched Hackenberg and went with Metzenberger, and he played and got the Memphis Express first win.
Yeah.
So
not against us. He got them yesterday.
Yeah, this week against the Fleet in overtime. So
right.
And it's not like Gilbert's lighting up the league like Kurt Warner did, and in the Arena League. It's just he has some pro experience. He's competent. Every week you can see him getting faster through his progressions, getting more comfortable in Steve Spurrier's offense. And I will continue to say this forever, that you can't stop Steve Spurrier offense by rushing 5. Like it just cannot be done.
Right. And I don't have this week's game book in front of me with all the stats and everything that they send out to us. I'm really curious with Gilbert, especially how he's doing as far as how many like QB hits he's taken. He hasn't really taken a whole lot of sacks. I think he might maybe have like an average of a little bit less than 1 per game, maybe right over. I'm not really quite sure. But I was thinking, I was having this thought as I'm watching them, because I think you're right. The quarterback play with Gilbert, it really has been outstanding. Whether he's throwing the ball, whether he's handing it off, or whether he's running it himself. And the only thing I'm really concerned about with him there is he does not know how to slide. And it doesn't seem like he knows how to get out of bounds when he's running the ball. Like he just takes the hit, and he seems to take like awkward hits too.
Yeah, I feel you, but I don't, at this level of competition, I doesn't matter.
You don't think so?
Like, well, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not wishing injury on Garrett Gilbert, but if he goes down, I'm not going to be soul crushed. Oh, there goes our season. Okay, it's like, it's like Spurrier's got another guy, that's obviously not quite as good, but he's probably right there. They got Austin Appleby and they'll be fine.
Right. And the only thing I go back to, I think I mentioned this, is I remember having a conversation with Garrett Gilbert. It was in the press conference with Garrett Gilbert about that, and his attitude. And I've heard this through several of his answers with things as a quarterback. Like, I'm a football player too. I take hits. I give hits. I pop up. I pop down.
He did get a little fiery though a couple of times. He took some late shot against the Stallions.
Yeah.
And he was barking back.
And
our old buddy Silver Sigula.
Yeah. Salinga is how you pronounce that. And
No, it's not.
It is absolutely how you pronounce that. And it was real funny because the 2 guys that were commenting on the game, one of them actually read the pronunciation card and he was saying it correctly. And you would never know that it's pronounced Salinga unless you read the pronunciation card, because there is no N actually in his name.
Yeah.
And the other guy obviously didn't, because he just kept calling him Siliga or Saligia or
Saliva.
Yeah. So
he had the silver down part.
Silver
Saliga.
Saliga.
Yeah, we had fun with that name for quite a while.
And now we're talking about it again. Oh, holy crap. But yeah, so Silver Saliga, Silver Salinga. Yeah, he was back in it. He was in Gilbert's face quite a bit. That might have actually been what was the impetus for me kind of making this note of, I'd be really curious to see what Gilbert, what his like knockdown rate is, what his QB hit rate is. Because like I was trying to look a little bit at the offensive line, and this
Is there a place where we can find this stuff yet?
I don't think so.
I know.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I know it might be a little bit of overkill, and not many people would sort of look this stuff up. You know, our buddy, friend of the show, Tom Alexander, he probably has all that stuff.
Sure.
But it's all hard copy, and hasn't put it, like, I don't know if it's anywhere out there on the net. It may be on Reddit somewhere, like somebody that just, is just a stats hardcore guy that just wants to put it out there. I saw somebody
like who's keeping their own stats, you mean?
Yeah, and then and then watching each game and putting them out there. Or maybe they have friends that have hard copies and they email it to them or whatever. I saw somebody who I follow on Twitter, an NFL guy.
Yep.
He put all of the all of the Alliance rosters in Madden, and you can download them and play them.
Oh, really?
For PlayStation 4 only, though. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he graded them out and slapped them all and uploaded them to Madden. So there's that.
Well, there you go. So, but anyway, my point in that all saying, I'm kind of like, I'm an offensive line guy. So I was just trying to like, I wonder how this offensive line is really doing for the Apollos. Like I'm in that spot. With the Apollos where I'm starting to like game by game focus on this unit and look at this unit. You can't do it all in one game unless you're going to go back to a big film study, which I'm not. But I am starting to look at the different units and see how they're performing.
Yeah, now we want to talk about this stuff. Look, like we've learned the players, we know the guys to watch now, even some of the other guys around in the league. Like we know the offense, we can see what the defense is doing. Sorry, did you get a schedule upgrade on your computer?
No,
I just had a pop up like I'm gonna download and upgrade your computer. I'm like, no, you're not. So, but now's the time where I want to start digging into these sacks and see, like you said, which offensive line is protecting better, which defensive line is protecting better. I talked about how our defense isn't getting a lot of love because there has been long drives almost every game where it seems that they don't get a lot of 3 and outs. Like they don't, and they get and the teams run the ball on them. It feels like pretty successfully,
right?
But I want to go somewhere and be able to see if I'm right. Like I can't eyeball test. Like, look, I love the Alliance. I'm not going to DDR 4 games a week and go back and handwrite stats. I'm not going to do it. There ain't no way.
Right.
So I would really like to see a spot somewhere where we can find that. And this is the stuff we can talk about because we are now past the we're now past like talking about the rules, talking about the uniforms. Hey, this guy was good. Hey, this guy isn't good. We're now to the part where we need to start talking about the teams and how they're built and what they're good at and we can start talking about matchups, It's like all I really know about the Iron coming up next week is that they have a good defense.
Right.
They probably have the best defense in the league. That's about it.
But what makes that defense good? Is it a defensive line that's always in the face of your quarterback and they're blowing past offensive line? Is it a secondary that is just covering up the receivers and
it's the secondary covering up for the pass rush?
Is it a run? Are they just stuffing the run and nobody can run the ball on them? Like, what is it that's making their defense one of the best defenses in the league?
Right. I understand they're not giving up any points, but now we're to the point where it's like, why? How? Yeah. So we need that information.
That and I feel like on some level, like we're starting to get to know the players better. Like I can start kind of rattling off some of the names of the players. There's Gilbert and there's Okine over on the defensive line. There's Ansa. There's Will Hill, who by the way went out with an injury in this past game. There's Darnell Johnson, Davion Smith, and Akeem Hunt is the running backs. There's who is it? Jalen Marshall, Charles Johnson. There's the wide receivers, Dante Dye. Shout out Dante Dye getting a touchdown.
Double D.
Yeah, DD. DD is Cutter always called him.
And we can't forget about Reyes, their best corner.
Oh yeah, Razor.
Is it Razor?
Razor. Yeah.
Can't forget about the guy's name I mispronounced.
Right. I don't know how to say it, but I know it's him.
He dropped his third pick to end the game. Like, it hit him right in the chest. It
Yeah.
would have been. I mean, that has to lead the league.
Right. And dropped interceptions.
Yeah. No. I mean, he has 2 already.
Right.
And he like dropped the third one. It would just end the game. It's like hit him right in the chest. But anyway, yeah, like you said, we're getting to know these players.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time to sort of take the step and move on, so we can talk about like more of the X's and O's.
Right. You know what I think would make watching the Alliance? You guys are listening to every episode of Showtime with the Apollo. So here's my 2 cents. You know what I think would make the Alliance a far more interesting watch is if they had the week-to-week cameras there with the teams, that we actually dive into what's happening with this league throughout the week, kind of like a Hard Knocks or an All or Nothing,
or like how Casey Phillips with the Buccaneers does like the 1 minute like Bucs beat.
Yeah, only not 1 minute. Like, give me a half-hour show or a 20-minute show or something that you know, hey, here's this player and what these guys are doing, and here's
I don't think they want to do that.
Oh no, I don't. I know they don't want to do that. But what I'm saying is, like, because I've been watching some of the All or Nothings after we hired Bruce Arians with Tampa Bay. I went and watched that All or Nothing, and I kind of got hooked, and so I've been watching some of the other ones, and it really changes how you look at the season. Of course, those come out well after the season is over, but you got Hard Knocks, which is happening through training camp. Like, it ends on Sunday, and like that episode's out by Tuesday, so they are able to turn it around.
I would not watch any of those of the Alliance.
You wouldn't?
No.
I bet they could figure out how to do it. I think it would make watching the Alliance far more interesting.
It costs too much money.
I'm not saying that it's feasible. I'm saying from an entertainment value as a consumer, it would make watching the Alliance far more interesting.
And to be quite honest, I don't care about these players enough.
But see, that's why you need the Hard Knocks type episode. Because remember in training camp, in training camp, you get to know all these players that you don't care about, and all of a sudden you start caring about them. And that's how people
Brent, I'm a huge football fan. I've never watched a Hard Knocks besides the Buccaneers. I've never watched an All or Nothing. And there's one on my head coach that I'm going to cover next year, and I still haven't watched it yet.
Oh, you should watch it. It's really good.
Sure.
I'll give you my Prime password. Go ahead.
Mike Flowers in the chat says the stats are on the site.
Okay.
They're not on the app, because I check the app all the time for those stats, and they're not on there. So I guess we go on the Alliance site that they're there. So
yeah, he dropped the link. If anybody out there is wondering, it's just aaf.com/Orlando-Apollos/stats. So I'm not going to click on
something else we should have probably looked up.
Probably.
Have we mentioned this is just a side project for us?
It is. Yes, this is very much. This is welcome to the offseason of the NFL, folks.
No, but seriously, this should be a really fun game coming up against the Birmingham Iron.
Yeah,
because of their defense, and I think it's really going to push. This might be the first visor throw of Steve Spurrier's Alliance career coming up this game, because yeah, because he only does it when he gets frustrated with the quarterbacks,
right?
And looking at but the problem with the Iron, they just can't score, man. Like, I've been watching them, I've seen them, and everyone talked about their quarterback. He almost went to like Oklahoma State on a bowling scholarship.
A bowling scholarship?
Yeah, obviously he's a really good bowler, but he went to a smaller school to play quarterback, and missed his window or got passed over, and everyone just kind of likes him in the meetings for his maturity and says the right things and stuff. But then you watch a couple of games and he's Alex Smith. Like, he drops back in the pocket, as soon as his foot sets, he makes his first read. When it's not there, he breaks containment, and then he checks down, and that's what he does. But this defense keeps him in games, so as long as they didn't turn the ball over, they got a chance to win. But I just once again, I just don't think it's going to hold up against Spurrier's offense. You can't. You're going to have to score. You're just going to have to.
Is
score.
Spurrier's offense going to be able to go up against this defense?
Well, yeah. I mean,
You think so?
they're
Yeah.
yeah. Even it's funny. It's like you watch this Salt Lake game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they only scored 20 points. Like, oh wow, they held Spurs offense down. Well, I'm pretty sure they scored on 4 straight possessions, and the 5th one when they had it, they were trying to run the clock out
Okay. Right.
because like they were like 3. I don't know if they went back to back 3-and-outs, but they didn't score. And then I think they kicked back to back field goals
They
and
did.
might have had like a mini drive right before halftime.
Okay.
Come out at halftime, and then they score touchdowns. But in between there, the Stallions scored a touchdown, and it eats up a lot of clock, and
Mhm.
so
And the clocks in the Alliance aren't stopping as frequently as they do.
yeah,
in
they're
the
not,
NFL.
they're not,
Yeah.
because by the time the Alliance got the ball the 3rd time, there's about 5.5, 6 minutes left in the 4th quarter,
Mhm.
and they're trying to just grind it out.
Right.
And they picked up like 2 or 3 first downs,
Right.
missed on like a 3rd and 7. They got like 3rd and 6. And they ended up punting it away, and then I think that they shut down the Stallions and got the ball back, and
Mhm.
game's over. So
And I mean, and that's part of where we saw Akeem Hunt come out. I don't think we saw him until the 4th quarter, but he had a good game from the part that he got in, but he didn't come in until really late in the game. He lost it. Now, what I think makes this a little bit interesting, he lost his starting gig because he was the starting running back the first 2 weeks.
mhm.
Did not perform well at all during those slow starts, and lost that starting gig. And now we see him come out in the 4th quarter. But man, he came out, had a strong quarter, but he looked fresh coming into the game because he hadn't played, honestly. But he looked fresh. He looked hungry. He looked ready to go. And I'll be interested to see if he can maybe reclaim that starting spot as the season goes on. And then also, is there something to this keeping a running back fresh for late in the game, especially if you're just trying to run out the clock?
Well, I watched a lot of Steve Spurrier football when I told you about it
Sure.
on the earlier podcast, how we went to all the Bandits games, and he was head coach there for 3 years. Then he went to Duke and came to UF, and our family is a Gator family, so I watched a ton of Steve Spurrier games when he was at the University of Florida, and interchanging running backs throughout the game is something Steve Spurrier does. It's nothing new. You watch NFL games and you sort of got a first and second down back and a third down back.
Mm-hmm.
Spurrier doesn't. He's got like 2 first and second down backs. Actually, he's got 2 guys that are first, second, and third down backs, and he
Right.
just sort of like rides the hot hand.
Right.
Or when he feels it, it's like, well, hey, Jonas Johnson, you have played for 2.5 quarters now. Akeem Hunt is he's looking pretty upset. He hasn't got the ball yet, and like you said, he took advantage of his opportunities. So it's nothing new for Spurrier to just spread the ball around. It's just what he does.
Right.
You use the guys that you have and put them in the best position to make plays.
Okay, so let's compare this to what we just experienced with Dirk Cutter in Tampa Bay. We'll bring this back to the Bucs just a little bit, okay? One of the complaints that we had about Cutter was that it seemed like just because you were on the roster, he felt obligated to give you a certain amount of playing time and it's, no matter who's hot right now, it's Jacquizz Rodgers' turn to have the ball, so we're going to give him the ball.
Yeah.
So how are these, because it sounds very similar to me with what you're talking about, but I'm not pissed off at Spurrier for doing it with the apologies.
Well, because they work.
Fair enough.
Because
Right.
it works, and that's sort of the difference. Like if they go to it, it's hard to explain. It's probably because the Bucs are always losing. And it's like, well, we're gonna pull up Peyton Barber because, like you said, it's Quiz Rogers' time to run. Or we're gonna run a jet sweep, but we got Dante Dye, Double D on the team, and he's fast, so we're gonna give it to him instead of Deshaun Jackson because he tries really hard in practice and deserves to touch the ball in a game. That's the kind of stuff that used to drive us crazy.
Right.
With and you just can't. It's just sort of hard to argue with Spurrier with his track record because his team always puts up points, and no matter who touches the ball or who has the ball, it's like it's a positive play.
Right.
And it's play calling, it's coaching, and he's just a good ball coach, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's that old thing, like, if you're winning, nobody really cares. Right? Like,
Exactly.
as long as you're winning, as long as everything's working, no one cares. If you start losing, that's when everybody starts getting a little antsy for it. So, all right. Well, I'm looking down my list here, and that's really, I think, all the notes I have on this game. Did you have anything else about this game you wanted to talk about? Or
Not
anything
really.
in previewing
I mean,
for this next week that we haven't done already?
Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
I know this is sort of a shorter pod, but no one called in.
Sure.
Which I wasn't surprised. I think this is sort of going to fall in line to what it's like the oversaturation.
Sure.
Not so much of everyone's like the shine has worn off the Alliance. I just feel that everyone was all in at the combine.
Yeah.
And then interest will be picked back up next weekend because let's face it. Oh, one thing I would like to talk about. Remember how last episode I talked about how I thought the Alliance was doing a terrible job of not showcasing the Apollos.
Yep.
And they had like 4 games on Bleacher Report
Yeah,
Live.
I was thinking about you this week when this switch happened.
Yeah, so this week they got switched to the NFL Network. It was supposed to be on Bleacher Report Live, so they got the late game
flexed.
Saturday.
Yeah.
They got flexed, and then next week it's going to TNT.
Yeah.
Late game. Yeah. So I'm glad they listened to the
I
pod.
think for next week they actually switched the planned time as well to accommodate the TV schedule.
Or did they was supposed to be like
they
an earlier
changed
game?
their game time. Yeah, I think. Don't quote me on that. Or maybe it was this week. One of these 2 weeks they didn't just change where they were being broadcast. They actually flexed the game for the broadcast. Yeah,
so that's good to see. And more eyeballs and all that stuff is going to work out. But I think as far as the Apollos and the Alliance go, we're sort of turning the corner now, and this is going to be something where it's going to become more of an X's and O's type of podcast.
Sure.
Something that we thought it was going to be. When we first started, but it was just like jumping in the swimming pool for the first time. It's like,
where are we going with this one? Right.
Like what? Okay, who are these guys? Memphis. Okay, who's their quarterback? All right, do I know that guy? So and it was a lot about the coaches. So I'm looking forward to going forward with this pod and be able to bring some new stuff. But this week was I was all in
with
on
the combine. Yeah,
I was all.
It was all about the combine. Right. I'm with you. I think let's hear. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's it. All right. Well, Ren, why don't we go ahead and call it, man? I think that's it. Listen, the Orlando Apollos.
Is this our first InstantCast without a caller, ever, like with the Bucs or the Apollos?
That might be true. That might be true.
It is.
Unless we may have had a special impromptu InstantCast where we just opened it up while we talked about something that just dropped. Those may not have had a caller, but not as far as a scheduled caller.
A scheduled televised event.
Right. So, I think you might be right on that one. So, all right, guys. Well, listen, next week, the Orlando Apollos travel to Birmingham, Alabama, where they'll be taking on the Iron, who just lost their first game of the season. So they're going to be playing at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So that might have been the flex there, Ren. They'll be playing 2 p.m. on Eastern time on Saturday. That'd be March the 9th on TNT. You can do that. And then the Apollos will come home the following week where they'll be facing the Arizona Hotshots, who just lost to the Atlanta Legends.
Worst uniforms in the league.
There you go.
3 shades of purple.
And
on one uniform.
Honestly, the Hotshots aren't much better.
Anyway. Oh, the Hotshots are awful.
Oh, yeah.
But we can't say that because, they're in memory of,
it's the color combination. It's the color combination.
Oh, yeah. It's the color combination.
It really is.
It's the color combination.
Right.
And I know they had to throw the red in there for the fire, but it was bad. But it's really hard to say that because it's sort of a tribute. They had a big, actually, halftime tribute to some smoke jumpers that lost their lives back in 2013.
Did they?
They retired the number 19. No one can wear the number 19 for the Hotshots.
Well, good for them. Good for them.
Yeah.
However, this is coming.
And I'm on here going, your uniforms are god awful.
You guys suck. But this will also be coming off the Birmingham Iron, which a lot of people are saying that the Iron is their favorite uniform in the Alliance. So,
Which I also don't get.
But anyway, so you guys can join us for that, and we'll be back with you guys next Sunday night, 10 o'clock, right here on YouTube, right here on Mixler. Of course, you can always download the podcast feed later as well. You guys call in. We'll talk about the Bucs, or we'll talk about the Bucs. No, we will talk about the Apollos and their game, and we'll do it without the specter of the combine hanging over top of us over the course of the weekend as well. So until then, guys, go Apollos, take aim. We'll talk to you guys next time. Go Apollos. Bucs.